goes 1, 2. It's your boy DJ Easy Dick, and we're back here on another episode of Haze's Higher Learning. It's a podcast. I'll be getting ass from the podcast. Not yet, but when they hear this, though, I will. So tune in. Turn your weed up. If it ain't loud enough, find a new plug.
Everybody's seen Jackson 5 and the American Dream.
That nigga Randy, boy. That nigga was a motherfucker. I'm like, yo, somebody get this nigga Randy. Like, like it's like he's just one of them celebrity kids who like he was never broke like the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? Like when Randy came around, they had money. They was already, doing their thing, touring. Cali.
Oh, right. Randy was
so
the
when
new
Randy
baby.
came around,
he was always
Randy
rich.
ain't had no appreciation for this shit. Randy just like, I earned this spot in the band. I'm a brother too. Like, nah, Randy, you ain't get whooped like we got whooped. You ain't do the talent shows, Randy. Randy wasn't with us sweating in the living room back in Gary. Randy ain't even get jumped in Crip. Everybody else Crip except Randy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Haze's Higher Learning. I am your host, Ashlee Haze, and I am so excited about today's episode. We have had an interesting season full of interviews with some really dope people, and I wanted to sort of break up the intense philosophical conversations with a little bit of fun. And so just like school, you can have your electives. And so this elective is the first in a series called Cannabis Club with Ashlee Haze. And for my very first guest, I have invited one of my best friends. We have known each other since we were about 12 years old.
Yeah.
We went to school on the east side, Miller Grove, middle school. Then we went to high school at South Gwinnett High. And I was like, yo, I remember that dude from middle school. And so B is a cannabis activist, cannabis connoisseur. He is the person who introduced me to cannabis. Y'all, this man sparked up with my dad once. It was the craziest thing.
Legendary times.
Legendary times. So I introduce you none other than B. What is up, my friend?
What's up? I am super happy to be here. Hella comfortable. Hella comfortable. Yeah, this is my first time doing the podcast thing, but
it'll be fine. Yeah. I mean, it's just us talking about one of our favorite things. So I've been talking, I talked a little bit in episode 1 of this season about how cannabis has actually been super helpful for me through quarantine. Like it has helped me curb some of the anxious emotions that come with having a sudden change and big changes happening around you. And I have sort of changed my relationship with it. I started using cannabis oil, coconut oil, just as, throughout the day. I take it in the morning and it paces me. And so I brought B to talk about education about cannabis. I want us to have more open conversations, right? I feel like it's always this taboo thing, like, you smoke weed? Like, fuck that.
You know what I mean? Like, it's good for you. It's good for you. I'm not a big connoisseur of drugs at all. I'm really, I'll take a Tylenol if I truly have to.
Same.
But realistically, I like cannabis. It's very natural. It does have a lot of medicinal properties, and of course, it's fun. So, yeah, that's usually my go-to.
And I like the community of the camaraderie of like, let's burn a spliff. And I brought some goodies. I took a vacation.
Okay.
Which it was a socially distanced vacation. I drove to Virginia.
Responsible.
Yeah. My godmother was like, "Yo, I have the condo is empty. You can stay there." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gone."
Nice.
So I went and I smoked on a porch in Virginia, and it was dope. But I brought something back. I brought this strain called Pineapple back. and it is made by Alt Soul. And I'm gonna post a picture on the page. It came in this really dope porcelain
It
packaging.
is real nice.
Yes, it is. And so B has graciously rolled us up some. And B, you brought something. What did you bring?
Now I actually don't know what this beautiful bag of goodness over here is, but I figured we could figure it out together, possibly.
All right, all right, and maybe we'll post a picture of this, and y'all can tell us what you think it is. But let
Oh
me
yeah,
tell you, it's gorgeous. So we're gonna get into some of the language around what makes a string gorgeous and those sorts of things. So,
definitely.
B, talk to me a little bit about your journey with marijuana. What even made you want to try it? How did that relationship develop over time?
So I actually started smoking cannabis when I was 16 years old. Um, just out with my cousin in New York, trying something for the first time. My first strain was actually New York Sour Diesel. So big shout
Oh,
out to everybody up in New York.
it's
Big
wrong
shout
with
out to
Mike.
all the sativa smokers. Yes. Cousin Mike, of course. Happy birthday to him. His birthday was yesterday.
Word to cousin Mike.
Word to cousin Mike. So yeah, it was just something I had been interested in. And of course, just being with my cousins and some of my closest friends, most comfortable people to be around, I figured, hey, why not? And it literally opened my eyes. Like from that night on, like cannabis has definitely been like a huge part of my life. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And so back then, were you like smoking? Like once you got a hold of it, was it? Were you an everyday smoker? Were you just like,
Um,
how did that work?
um, I think back then, of course, when I was a teenager, like it was the summertime. So the summertime always gets a little bit more, a little bit more free, a little bit more fun. So we were smoking pretty much every day. And then of course, like, you get into the school year and you gotta be a little bit more focused. But in Atlanta, I didn't really, I didn't have friends because we smoked. And
Hmm.
being younger, it's like you're at a point where it's like it's not just you can't just do what you want. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it would be something where I would sneak off and do it, or like me and my neighbor would do it. She was a little bit older than me, so of course, we had basements. So it's like, hey, come by the basement, come by the basement. But realistically, it wasn't until I got into college where I had that freedom. I
Yeah.
really had the freedom to, really hold on to larger amounts, smoke whenever I want to, come up with my own schedule. It's when I started waking bakes. Um, a big shout out to Wiz Khalifa and Currency because, of course, they dropped some nice music around like my second year of
Oh
college, which
yeah, that
only
was a good
pushed the culture.
time.
Definitely good times. Definitely good times. But nowadays, I am a avid smoker, daily, multiple times a day. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but for me, it's a nice level that I like to be at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like for me, when we were in high school, you were like the friend that my parents liked, but like I don't know why they liked you either, but like my mom would come home and be like, "You and B been smoking every friend,"
Oh my
and I'd be
God.
like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." But like she wanted to trip, but she couldn't trip
Yeah.
because my dad like condoned this shit.
Exactly. I was the friend that everybody's parents loved, but got you into trouble on the backside. So,
Yes, for
but we always made
sure.
it home. We always made it
For
home.
sure. He better take that outside. Like whatever. So what have you learned about yourself since adding cannabis to your self-care regimen?
Oh man. Um, I mean, to be honest with you, cannabis really helped me realize who I am completely. Um, it just kind of showed me like that a lot of the things that I was doing were to please other people.
Mm,
Just being raised Nigerian, you're always like taught to like get good grades, strive for this, be the best, do this, do that, and to honor your family, honor your name. And of course, that's never gonna stop. But
right.
at the same time, like cannabis showed me that, hey, you're really interested in this, or this makes you feel really good, or hey, try something new, try something outside the box. It just really showed me, it gave me, I don't want to say the confidence to look at things differently,
Hmm.
but it took me outside of my normal mind frame. And anytime that you get an experience like that, whether it's, you know, drinking alcohol, or whether it's taking a trip to a new place. It doesn't always have to be drugs or,
For
something
sure.
illicit, but anytime that you're able to step out of your normal, it really opens you up to new experiences. And cannabis combined with, traveling other things has really given me the freedom to, be a happier person in general.
Yeah, man, that's a good point you make though, because I've been traveling for the past 4 years, touring, doing poetry, and so whenever I'm in like Colorado or like California, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, Disneyland, like
Yeah.
finally free. Because it's also, that takes us to the larger conversation of it's still not accessible to everybody
Right.
everywhere.
Right. And I think that is a little bit of my passion now, is really trying to focus on the people who don't have as much access and really help them figure it out, because honestly, if cannabis is a solution for you and it can
Hmm.
help you out, whether it's medically, dealing with cancer, dealing with AIDS, dealing with multiple sclerosis,
For sure.
or more psychological, like dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, and even for lesser types of mentals, or lesser spoken about mentals like ADHD, or just hyperactivity, just to help you calm down. Cannabis can really be a very easily used medicine, but it's just not easily accessible. So
Right, right. It's easily accessible to some
right,
places and some people, certain states,
some
like
of us.
right, some with an asterisk, white, and so it's just like I've been in places like Colorado where you just walk in, it's like the broy bros. It's like, yeah, what can I get you? And I'm
Yeah,
like, in Atlanta, the cops, you get pulled over
it's
for
done.
stuff like this, and that definitely goes to say we have to be proactive about how we approach politics and how we are proactive about educating people. And I think that
Right.
educating people and debunking a lot of the myths is how we do that. So, B, what's your like marijuana elevator pitch? Actually, you kind of just gave it to
Yeah,
me.
low key. But I mean, realistically, it sounds crazy, but most people approach me about marijuana because other people have gone to them about, marijuana. So I guess my elevator pitch is like walking in with a lit joint, looking free, looking happy, and just looking like I have no care in the world. Usually, when you see somebody having a good time in a nice place, you tend to have a good time too, or you feel that energy. So it's like, I just feel like my high energy just, radiates with some other people's vibes, and that's what pulls them in.
Hey, turn up. And so, what do you think are the most important things someone should know about marijuana?
Okay, so got to get a little bit serious here for a second, because even though marijuana is classified as a drug,
Yeah,
right? I don't like to call it a drug, but I don't like to hide the fact that it will take you out of your normal mindset.
for sure.
So you can call that impairment, right? So definitely, number one, want to be in a comfortable place with people who you're comfortable with if you're going to try cannabis. Or, you can even try it by yourself for the first time. Um, Another thing too, please know your laws in your state. Not every state is legal. Some states are way more harsh with their penalties than others. So
Some are
um,
decriminalized, and
yeah, but
that's a good
some
difference.
are decriminalized, which is great. You know what I mean? You might just get your weed taken away or thrown away. Um, but if you really truly want to get a good experience, just go somewhere legal so that you can be free. And then I guess the third, we're saying like most important things about weed, I guess,
Yeah.
like shh, make sure make sure you buy it from a trusted source, because we could go into some serious stories about
Yeah.
getting trash, and you don't want to waste your money, you don't want to waste your time, and I've seen some of the side effects of bad cannabis, so just stay away. Just be safe, play safe.
Be safe. Use, the sense God gave you.
If it don't look good, don't go for it. If it don't smell good, don't go for it. Um, Hell, just like anything, like if you were looking at food, you wouldn't want something that's nasty. You wouldn't want something that doesn't appeal to your senses. So whenever you're choosing cannabis, I guess, like, that's some good rules right there. Like, if it looks good, if it smells good, If it has a nice shine to it, you're looking for trichomes. Those are trichomes are actually the part of the cannabis that carries the active ingredient, which is THC,
THC.
tetrahydrocannabinol, and that is the main thing, and not the only thing, but the main thing in cannabis that gets you high. So you definitely want to look for cannabis that has a nice shine to it. You can definitely use your cell phone light. We all have a cell phone nowadays, so that's pretty easy. And then on top of that, if you are getting it from like a nice dispensary, be sure to ask for, different effects. There's basically two main kinds of cannabis. It's really three. You have cannabis sativa, which is
Mm-hmm.
more of an upper, more creative, more energetic. And then you have cannabis indica, which is, more of the stoner stuff, the cushes, the stuff that keeps you in the couch.
In
Indica.
the couch,
In the
yes.
couch, yeah, indica. That's an easy way to remember it. And then there's another one called Cannabis ruderalis, but you're not gonna find that. Don't worry about that. Yeah, Cannabis ruderalis. It's actually not
I'm
the
giving
best.
him the excuse me
Yeah.
face.
It's actually something that you probably wouldn't want to smoke. It's not as potent as cannabis indica or cannabis sativa. And then of course you're gonna hear about things called hybrids, which are literally um, pure race cannabis indicas mixed with pure race cannabis sativas to come up with a hybrid effect. So some of them will be indica dominant, some of them will be more sativa dominant, and some of them, like this pineapple we're smoking, are
Hmm.
a nice 50-50. So it's
It
actually,
really is
yes, it's
so in the
groovy, yo.
middle. Like that shit is dope. And so, this is a good segue into language about marijuana. Because when I started, or even just like growing up, my mom would call it reefer.
Right.
It's always had to
That's
do with like heathens, right?
anything, any kind of bad connotation. Yeah.
Devilment, right? But
The,
even growing up, it's like Reggie, gas, and
yeah.
exotic.
Exotic. Got that Zaza now. I got that Zaza and that runts now.
Got his eyes out
Got
in that
that
run.
cookies, that gorilla glue, that Kush, that Indo, that Outdo, that Hydro, that Dank, that Reggie. There's so many terms that go along with it, and realistically, like it's a base level to it. It's like they'll say like Reggie or like mid is like your low grade cannabis, like the brick weed, the stuff. I don't want to go into stereotypes. They say the stuff you get from the Mexicans, but I hate that. I hate hearing them say the stuff you get from the Mexicans because it's actually
Yeah,
some fire that grows in Mexico. But that's a whole nother topic. Um, but yeah, usually like just the lower grade cannabis, the Reggie. Um, I know you have your high grades. Definitely high grades and top shelf. Those are really where you want to smoke. I would suggest starting there. That's where I started myself. You know, Reggies are cool, but it doesn't. It's more of a. It's easier to know the effects that you're getting from high grades and top shelves,
for
and
sure.
those are easier to explain. They're well bred, well grown. Of course, you got people calling Zaza. I think it's the newest thing. Like
Yeah,
that's the
that's the
newest
newest
term.
thing.
The
When I heard it, I was
Zaza.
like, "What?"
I guess it was like Zaza that Zodic, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the Zaza actually is some very nice cannabis. Like, so they have a lot of nice tastes and
Mhm.
smells, and those are attributed to terpenes, right? Now, most plants, or I think all plants, if I'm not mistaken, have terpenes.
Yeah,
I think fruits have terpenes, vegetables have terpenes, and it really just contributes to, of course, the smell, but also the effects. So, a lot of sativas will have a certain terpene called limonene, which is more, zesty, more upbeat, more energetic, and you can
yes,
smell it in the cannabis too. So, a lot of the nicer strains, top shelf, the Zaza, you can really get the terpenes in there. You can really like, kind of smell what you're about to get into, for lack of better words.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I also think that there needs to be more education about the ways in which you get cannabis in your body because most
Right.
people know about smoking or my cousin got weed brownies.
Exactly. The good old weed brownies, but it's 2020, man.
It's 2020 and there's tincture and there's wax and there's keef and there's all of these
It's
things. So talk to me a
oil.
little bit about these forms. Tell people, what are they? What are the differences? What are the benefits of participating
Okay.
in either?
So this is actually a pretty long list of things that you can get into now, and it's
Yeah,
new
for
stuff
sure.
popping up every day, right? So of course you have your basic, your buds, your flowers. That's what you can grind up and smoke. You can roll it, and I like to use joint papers.
Bongs.
Bongs, bowls. I don't like to use tobaccos too much, but no down to anybody who would like to use them. Backwoods, Swishers, Dutch Masters. Um, then, of course, you have edibles, right? And most edibles are just infused with like a weed butter. So we gotta talk about weed butters. You can make weed butters, or just really just mixing weed with butter over the stove. That's the most basic way. You can get a lot more complicated than that too.
Yeah.
But then you can take that butter, put it in anything. So you got edibles. It's starting to turn into more dinners now that I'm seeing people do. You can
Yeah.
infuse weed into oil. You got tinctures, which
There's
are
a whole
infused into
television shows
alcohol.
about this.
I'm telling you, and this is the crazy thing. Like, I want to see more black people in weed too, because I'm seeing all these shows pop up. I'm seeing all these different events and situations, and I'm not seeing us in it as much.
Absolutely.
And back when they, tried to make weed illegal in the first place, a big part of that was like people saying that, black people smoke weed and then turn into heathens and rape white women.
Exactly.
So I definitely want to see us change on that and actually get a lot of this money that's out here. So, um,
And a lot of black families have been affected by incarceration due to drug
a
charges.
hundred
Because
percent,
you elect people
a
who get to
100%,
decide what's illegal and what's not, and what
exactly.
side of town to enforce in, and what side of
Hmm.
town to ignore
And
in,
which counties
and
to
who to give the
regulate
license
in,
to.
exactly who gets licenses, who gets to open dispensaries. It goes into um hell, who controls the industry, for lack of better words.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to go into real estate as far as who gets to buy land and where. The best places to grow marijuana are probably going to get snatched up real quick by the white people. So we need to get in there, and it's not necessarily just the white people, but really anybody who is looking to corporatize, over monetize,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
really just take away any chance that anybody else has to even get a little piece of success. So um I know we jumped into like
I know,
topic to
right?
topic, and hey, I mean,
But that's what
it's
this podcast is about, having broader conversations about social justice.
it's
And so returning power back to cannabis, returning power to the people to
mm,
decide on cannabis. Because that's another thing too. It's not always going to be the best choice for you. I got
right,
homies who be like, yo, I smoked for years and then I stopped.
right.
And, I might do it every now and then on a Saturday.
Yeah, honestly, isn't for everybody.
Exactly. And you just change your relationship with it over time. If you have certain things going on, you want to be more creative, or if you got a job and you want to prioritize secure income,
Right.
even though that's a
That's
different
a whole nother
conversation.
topic. That's a whole nother
Because that's
topic.
that bull.
That's that I got a job, but it's still that bull. So honestly, um I mean, at this point, I just kind of feel like cannabis is something that should be a mainstream topic. It's something that honestly, I'm a parent. I have two children. I have a 3-year-old. He'll be 4 this month, actually. So I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And I do smoke in my house, and they have seen me smoke. As they're getting older, I'm maybe starting to pull back a little bit more from them seeing me smoke. But in their younger days, I was pretty free around about as far as like having my things around the house,
Yeah.
because I feel like it should be normal,
Hmm.
um their mom has like a whole rack of like herbs that she uses to, like, she has her own natural things too, body butters and oils and all that,
Dope stuff too.
definitely in a therapy in a holistic way. But I like to keep my cannabis out too, and it just adds to the mix for the kids, that they can know that all of these things help, all of these things are natural. It kind of brings us back to, make it feel like it brings us back to being a little blacker, like Beyonce like to say. You know what I'm saying? Black is king.
Man, that Black is
Oh
King was
man,
so
just
cold.
watched it this morning. Like, shout out to everybody involved in that. Shout out to my home country, Nigeria. And I think maybe that's why I feel like a lot more of a connection with cannabis. I've actually, had some moments where I've just been super high and just sitting back and trying to think about the history of cannabis and why I feel like black people are so much more connected to it. I feel like for a lot of us, it can be spiritual sometimes. And I don't know anybody who consumes more cannabis than black people,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And that's me, intermingling in every community.
For sure.
So I definitely do believe that it's something that was back home, something that we used back home a lot,
Absolutely.
whether it's from cooking to herbs to remedies to Excuse me, like tinctures like we have now that are alcohol infused. You could drop it in anything, soups, juices, to topicals, ointments, skin lotions that you could put on. They make those
Truly
now too.
medicinal. It's truly a
Truly
versatile
medicinal.
plant.
It's completely usable. And then even like the cousin of cannabis, like hemp, that's like one of the best fibers in the world. It's better than cotton. So if you put two and two together, I guess I can see another reason why they made it illegal.
Mm.
People in the South needed to sell cotton. They wanted hemp out. They wanted weed out because weed would take over tobacco. So there you go. Back to the powers that be, you know, trying to be the powers. And I'm like, look, honestly, you got to give the power to the people.
You gotta give the power back
You
to the
got to give it
people.
back to the
We
people.
gotta take it.
You got to take it. And I'm telling you, if you get high, you might come up with a way because I've thought of some crazy ideas. And it's like, some of the best music that we hear, some of the best movies that we've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
like were written by people who, smoked cannabis. And some of them did a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, they broadened their horizons. And I feel like cannabis is a nice like entry point or a nice safe way to do that without putting yourself in a nut house or going homeless, or you know what I mean, because we all know the side effects of like crack, heroin,
Absolutely.
meth, LSD, acid not so much, but if you do too much, hell yeah. So
Absolutely.
definitely, so I'm high as shit.
We went off on a little bit of tangent.
You
So,
always do.
but I think that that's where we needed to go. Those are points that I do higher learning so that we can expose these viewpoints and these stories and be thinking about this and think about ways to be active in our communities, ways to get Keisha
Right.
to tell these folks, you know what I mean,
Come
to
on, Keisha.
come on,
Come on,
Keisha.
Keisha.
But other ways to get it. So butter. We have edibles, and then I
Edible.
wanted to talk a little bit about using those raw butters, using those fatty oils.
Mm.
If you by no means should you just be buying from anybody. I trust people who know what they're doing, who
Mm.
understand things like decarboxylation,
Mm.
understand how hot you have to get the plant in order
Right.
to activate the medicine.
So this is a really important point, right? Because cannabis can be expensive depending on where you're at,
For sure.
right? So you want to make sure that you're not going to waste any of your materials. So I would honestly say there is a lot of stuff online, but realistically, like if you are going to use your cannabis to try to make like butters and oils, I would suggest starting with a crock pot. That's one of the easiest ways to
Yep.
start. You could do like a pound of butter. You can use raw vegan butter if that's what you need to, or coconut oil, which is very, very good for this. You can mix in about half an ounce of weed and just let it, low simmer for about 6 hours. Super easy way to start. You can strain it through cheesecloth. Um, but if you're going to try to make like a tincture, or like make like an easy oil real quick, one of the best ways to do it is, like you said, decarb it in the oven for like at like a low temperature, because decarboxylation is just breaking off like I think the extra carbon molecule off of the
Right.
THC to actually activate it. That
Correct.
usually happens when you're smoking because the
Because the
flame
fire
hits the
does it.
weed, yeah, and then the smoke is decarbed, right? So just put it on like, a baking tray, some parchment paper, pop it in the oven, like maybe 200 degrees, 190 degrees, something like that, just like 30 minutes. And then you can mix it into like different alcohols, or hell, that's when it's active. You can eat it straight then if you want to, like some weed chips, but that's on a whole nother level. That's when you start experimenting with shit. But
um, Major key alert, everybody.
major,
You just got handed the keys. So if that's your thing and you want to try it out, you
just make,
have
yeah,
the
yeah.
information that you need
Make sure
to
you do it the right
approach
way.
it, right?
Definitely.
Make sure you do it. And then cartridges, right? Those have been heavy. People have been talking
Nah,
a lot about carts.
that's a whole nother thing. Like cartridges, um, vape pens, what else they call them? Just pens, vapes, carts. Those essentially have like a cannabis oil in them, right? But cannabis doesn't come as an oil. So of course, there's a method that this stuff has to go through.
Mhm.
The old way used to be like we stick like a bunch of weed in a tube, like a pound of weed in a tube, and like take a can of butane and run it through the tube and let it drip out the other side, and then like put that on a hot plate and like purge off the butane. And people used to blow up their houses.
That
People,
sounds dangerous.
I mean, you're setting a whole can of
It
lighter
sounds like some
fluid
shit white
essentially.
boys invented.
It was, and it starts. So concentrates kind of started off really kind of nasty, but over the years, they've actually developed a lot more science around it. So nowadays, concentrates are easy to make, but there's different ways they turn them into oils for the carts, these
Mhm.
cartridges, these vape pens, and you have to be real careful with those because some people do still use old techniques. Some people thin it out with pesticides or like just real kind of nasty
Mm,
materials that you don't want in your body. So
for sure.
yeah, that's why vape pens have gotten a big like lashback, and then Juul was kind of too, and that's more on the tobacco side. But people's parents or like grandparents, the old white people who are voting and controlling like politics, like they don't care about the difference between like a nasty Juul and like a nice lab tested, vape pen, a nice lab tested THC infused cartridge. So, um, yeah, that's kind of taking a left, but
No, but
I still think that's a good option. I actually use them myself, but I only use like one company. So you just have to find what works for you. And I would definitely suggest getting those from either somebody overly trusted or complete straight from the dispensary in a legal state.
yeah, that's probably gonna be your best option.
Definitely your best option. I know a lot of people like edibles as well. Some of these gummies, the new gummies that are coming out, are infused with cannabis concentrates or dipped in some of these oils.
Hmm.
So you want to be careful on that too. Chiba Chew is a super straight brand. I've been using them for
Yeah, I like
years. Like,
Chiba.
yeah, they're one of the first like candies that I ever even heard about from like way, way, way back in the day. If you're ever interested in cannabis, you can, stop at any like, gas station. Not anyone, not like a quick trip, not the nice gas stations. You gotta go to like
I
the
don't know where
hood
this is
gas
headed.
stations. No, you gotta go to the good house. No, just get like a magazine. Look on the magazine rack and get a High Times magazine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not gonna have you buying weed from the gas station. No, 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 no. I mean, shit, that's a whole nother thing, motherfucker. You go to we live in Atlanta. You go to any gas station, motherfucker be at the gas station like, hey, I got that gas. You smoke? You smoke? And see, that's another reason that I don't buy Rellos. Cause you get a couple Rellos from the gas station, and then next thing you know, like, hey big bruh, say big bruh, you smoke? You trying to get you need some gas? You need some gas? I'm gonna be like, I'm good.
Everybody trying to get
I'm
it how
good.
they
Thank you.
live.
I appreciate you. Support black business, but I'm solid. These are from a friend. Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
always gotta play it off. But yeah, man. It's
What are places people can go to get education about, self educate about
well,
marijuana?
if you really want to educate yourself, like I mean, there's everything online, to be honest. Like
There's
picking up a high
documentaries.
times, there's documentaries on deck, podcasts, of course, like Instagram pages, all kinds of internet pages, Twitter pages, books, of course. If you really want to start on some like purely scientific, really complete analysis, I would say like start off with like Jorge Cervantes, like horticulture guy, like horticulture of marijuana. Believe that's what it's called, but it's definitely Jorge Cervantes,
Hmm.
the author. And that is a really complete guy that will even show you how to grow, very well illustrated, so you can learn about it from, like hands on low key without actually having to go touch cannabis or without having to spend any money besides the book cost.
Hmm.
So, but of course, online is always free. I wish this was the point where I could say you could buy my book,
Right.
Cannabis by
We'll get you a
Corilla.
book
Yeah, I'll get a book
or a YouTube channel.
or something like that. Oh, my sister and them actually they're dropping the cookbook.
Hey, turn up.
Yeah, yeah,
V
yeah.
Sister Man mixes honey. And I think I'm gonna do
Oh,
a
that's
giveaway
awesome.
with like some honey
Green
and
Goddess.
yeah, Green Goddess. I'll tag Green Goddess in this episode. Yeah. So I love like I was seeing black folks in cannabis business.
Right.
That is like my favorite
I
thing.
love it. There's actually funny enough to say, like, how can how deep can I go? Like, can I like talk about like how much it is in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure, like, Feds watchers. At least we fresh though.
The feds
But
might be watching.
but we fresh though. We're the two
But you know
chain.
I'm a poet, right? I can take certain risks.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, well, shit, there's actually a lot of black owned companies right here in Atlanta who are doing that thing. I know Good Gardens, they're actually legal. They're actually legal. They're in Oregon. But of course, their founders live in Atlanta and they're black. So, shout out to them.
Word.
Um, you have, I know there's some people out here who've made popcorn. I know there's a few edible companies out around Atlanta. It's, I think a company who's making soap. Yeah, they're making soap. It's like I know a company who's really dope who's making lemonades. But
Yeah, I know
yeah,
them
you
too.
know them too?
I think we're gonna give out their Instagram shortly.
Nah,
So
maybe at some point. Maybe at some point.
I know them
That's
too.
I know they about to be dropping something real soon. So,
Very
but
excited about this.
definitely.
So, what are your thoughts on CBD and how do the effects compare to THC?
That's a good question. Um, So of course, like a lot of people talking about CBD nowadays. Of course, like a lot of places are making it legal. Might as well go ahead and make everything legal if they're gonna do
Mm-hmm.
that. But so CBD is actually in cannabis, but it's also in hemp, and it does have some medicinal properties like THC. So of course, it helps people get more relaxed, but still be able to pass a drug test because the drug tests are reading for the THC. So
It's
CBD,
not this. It's a
yeah,
non-psychoactive.
it's non-psychoactive, cannabidiol. That's what it's called. And me personally, I love it as far as like, being a nice option for people, but I'm a THC person all the way. I gotta have my THC. But that's because I feel like the THC adds a level of fun. And there is some healing in the THC as well. So sometimes I feel like CBD is great. It's a really nice option. It's very accessible. Um, so yeah, give it a shot, but most of it is hemp derived. So it's not exactly the same as trying cannabis in my opinion. Um, but there are some CBD heavy cannabis strains. So if you want to go that route, it's a little bit more difficult to get your hands on though, unless you're like in a legal state. So yeah.
Right. But like we use CBD, we give it to my youngest brother who has severe autism.
Mm.
So we wouldn't want to give
Yeah,
him the
how's that been
psycho.
working out?
So it's calming, it's almost like melatonin, I guess what
Exactly.
you could compare it
The
to, right?
easiest, like rose hips.
But even though there are studies that prove that THC can do wonders in people who suffer from seizures, we live in Georgia, and Georgia just doesn't
Yeah.
make that easy. So you'd have to go to like Colorado or
That's one
California
of the
or
toughest parts about this
DC.
whole thing, especially like, for people like your brother. Of course, I know your brother.
Right,
And we dealt with this our whole lives. And even though he's made huge leaps and bounds, it's like there's sometimes that, leaps and bounds just don't work.
right, exactly.
So I love that about CBD and cannabis. And that's probably the biggest thing that keeps me in. You know what I mean? Like I'm 31 at this point. I know they always have that discussion about when you're gonna grow up and let go of cannabis, but it's like, why does it have to be a childish thing?
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So as I get older, like the fight and the push is more for people to have access when they truly need it as a
For sure.
medical supplement. Um, I've heard of other cases where there's like a kid who literally never stopped seizing, and the only thing, like from surgeries to medicines to shots to to everything, the only thing that worked for the kid was cannabis.
Yep, it's oil.
It was beautiful to like watch this on film. Like this is documented. So it's like, why would a government not want this? Why would a people not want this for their people?
Exactly,
So,
exactly, to make it available. But self educate. There are a lot of documentaries,
right.
free documentaries, or if you have a Netflix account,
Books,
books,
websites,
articles.
spend a couple dollars on the High Times Hell, I'll sponsor you for high times if you
Hey, are
want
we
to.
giving out? Let's give out 5 high times. I love giving out
5 high times.
free.
Give out some free high
So,
times.
to get one of those high times, you are going to message B at the pass, and
THA_pass PASS. It's an Instagram page that I actually started years and years ago, just to share the camaraderie of cannabis, and it's turned into a little more of an educational thing. I've grown. I've gotten more
yeah,
professional. Like just like I see you grown with your poetry, and
sophisticated.
you went
Yeah.
from a slam here or two to books and podcasts. And I feel good to be here, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you for
no problem.
coming.
I'm glad you even, reached out to me to bring me here. I'm
For
feeling
sure.
real regal right
Like I feel like we're in a
now.
cannabis club. So it's like,
Definitely.
yeah, let the homies, I'm introducing my audience to the folks who are in my life and the ways that they have impacted my
Nice.
life. And so you have impacted my life and giving me access to cannabis, giving me education,
So,
to making sure that I knew what I was getting myself into, giving me the freedom. Like I might be like, I'm not smoking for a little while and be like, and I'd be like, but I don't feel bad. And B'd be
no.
like, because it's not a drug.
It's not a drug. It's not a drug. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've noticed for myself is that in those times where I didn't have cannabis or I couldn't have it, I didn't crave it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It wasn't like it's never felt like an addiction for me. You know what I mean? Like an addiction is very hard to put down, from smoking cigarettes to, even drinking alcohol. Like this stuff is really hard to put down when you get deep into it, but cannabis is something to easily pull away from.
Yep,
So
something you can easily pick up and put down.
anytime you need to, especially if you feel like you're not getting high no more, it's like, yeah, you definitely want to take a break,
Because it can get expensive.
just a
Like
day or
you said
two.
that, but
You
it
know what
can
I
get
mean? It can get
expensive.
super expensive. Like I remember when man, shit, back in the day we used to get like a gram, like just to kind of put it into perspective for y'all listening, a gram, like you could definitely close your hand around a gram. Like a
It's
gram
like
would
the
be like
size
the
of a
size,
quarter.
yeah, like the size of a quarter, right? So we used to get a gram and split a gram into two, and then roll a blunt with each half. So it's like you used to get two blunts out of a gram. Nowadays, you get a gram might blow off in the wind. like, like, like over time, like I guess your tolerance goes up a little bit. Your ability to just handle the effects of it. I mean, maybe a desire for it. All
Hmm.
of that will go up, but at the same time, it's never like an itch that you have to scratch if you can't get it. It's
Yeah,
just
for
not. It's
sure.
not like crack. Like you're not gonna be out here like, oh nigga,
Right, like
oh
meth.
let me get a gram, dog. Look, I'll suck your dick for a gram. Like no, 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 none of that.
I
So
don't know that anybody has
nah, I don't think I ever heard nobody say that. I don't think I ever
uh,
heard nobody say that. I've
on
heard
this
some. I've
podcast.
heard some
Leave it
wild
to
shit.
you.
Shit, I've heard.
So B,
What's up?
what is your favorite if you had to pick strain cultivation of
Hmm,
cannabis?
that is a damn good question and a hard ass question to answer. Man, I've smoked a lot of weed. I feel like probably like it used to be sour diesel, and I think it was just more.
Really
I
classic.
think it was just more nostalgia,
Yeah.
because of course that's where I started. But then it went, and it was actually at blueberry, just straight blueberry. And it's like an older strain. Like, you won't see it around too much. Like there's blueberry yum yum. There's like other
Mm-hmm.
things blueberries mixed with, but it's just straight blueberry. It just does it for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just does it for me. There's like really nice new strains like London Pound Cake. That was pretty dope. Um, damn. A lot of people talk about Wiz Khalifa's KK. It was good.
So I
KK
got
was
the
good.
KK when I was in
Me too.
Vegas. And I didn't get the
Yeah,
hype.
it's I love it. I love it. You know what I mean? Like shout out to Wiz, and that's
Like
his thing.
shout
It's for
out,
him. It's
right?
for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like remember I said like of course like cannabis is it's got to appeal to your senses. You got to
Exactly.
the smell's got to be what you love. There's a taste when you smoke it, or even if you vape it or hit it with a bong. Hit it in the bong, but or smoke it out of an apple because you could do that too. But there's just different tastes that come along with it. And some of these new strains got fire ass taste. But that blueberry, for me, like that's
That's
in
your
my
shit.
yeah, that's in my heart. That's in my heart forever.
I think white gold.
Hmm.
I'm into blueberry yum yum as like a creative strain, but also like 16-year-old me probably played that way too much in high school.
That was my jam too. That fucking ludicrous.
And I don't know, like I'm more into sativa leaning
Mm.
strains. Like I love some cookie stuff does that, some the fruity stuff, the lemonies, the
Yeah, like
sherbets, the
super lemon
gelatos,
haze.
those.
The diesel, the sour diesel, that's more sativa. You have like guava. I think Southern Lights. That's one I tried the other day. Like Southern Lights was a nice sativa.
I haven't
Um,
had that yet.
oh, I know. I gotta bring you some
Shut
of
up.
that. I gotta bring you some of
That
that.
pink lemonade.
That pink lemonade was
That was cold.
really nice. I think I had some Dutch Dragon. I've had some Bird's Eye. That was pretty dope. That was pretty dope. But yeah, sativas like you're not seeing a lot, you're not seeing many of them lately. Like so much of the new stuff is just like so crossed up anyway
Yeah, yeah,
that you
yeah.
can't really tell the pures from the indicas, the pure sativas from the pure indicas or whatever. But a lot of stuff is really indica leaning, just
Yep.
hitting people with strength, which is well appreciated by more veteran smokers like myself. But there's actually different percentages of THC across different strains. So it usually goes from like 10% in the really low range to like 30% in the higher range. So like that's kind of how you tell with the grades of weed too, like just by the percentage of THC in it. But that's usually information you won't get unless you're like in a legal state or you get like some nice packaged shit.
Right.
So yeah, this makes it a little bit more difficult, which is only another reason why they just need to make it legal across the whole country so everybody can have like not regulated weed, but at the very least, everybody can be free to get weed from places who can take the time to, get it tested and really give you the facts about what you're getting into. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Why not regulate it?
When I say don't regulate, I mean like don't let the government regulate it.
I
You know
see.
what I mean? Because obviously, I mean they do some things well, but there's some things that, are just better done on a, smaller scale,
Yeah.
or a more localized scale. It's just like, you can get meat from like Walmart. You know what I'm saying? No problem with that at all. But then, if you want a higher quality product, most of the time you got to go to a butcher or you want to go to a Whole Foods you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if it's the same weed in every single state, grown in like one location by the government or controlled by the government, next thing you know, kind of takes away from the creativity of weed.
I see.
You
I
know what I
see
mean?
the individualism of having like certain cultivators.
Exactly. Like there's people out there who really like have back crossed or like bred different kind of cannabis strains for years and years and years just to come up with something that's real personal to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's that
Almost like making a bourbon and
exactly.
building that sort of branding.
Exactly. Like the same way you have different wineries who have been, cultivating and breeding grapes for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of freedom should be experienced, for cannabis cultivators as well, because a lot of work goes into it. So shout out to anybody who, grows from a small scale to a large scale because it does take a lot of love. It is a lot of passion. Um, and hey, a lot of us get to, reap the benefits of that. So shout out to y'all.
Shout out to y'all. Thank you so much, B, for joining
No
me.
problem. Thanks for having
This
me.
was so fun. Thank y'all for tuning into my first installment of the Cannabis Club with Ashlee Haze. Make sure you follow B at the pass THA_PASS. Follow us at Haze's Higher Learning. We will be giving B enough cash to buy 5 copies of High Times, and he is going
Hey,
to make those available to the first folks who DM him
definitely,
after hearing this podcast, after seeing the graphic on Instagram. Make
definitely.
sure you share, subscribe, support ashleehaze.com/support. As you all know, I'm working on some shows, working on some projects, working on some productions, and some of those productions include more conversations and educational pieces about cannabis. So reach out to me about how to support that. I'm gonna be hitting B up for some investment money so I can produce this stuff.
I got
And
like 20 in my pocket.
got like
I
20.
got a little
Let
20.
me get that up off you. I'm gonna take that. So,
Right.
the song of the week is "The High Life" by the Band of Brothers. Thank you all for tuning into Haze's Higher Learning, where together we are learning better, doing better, and being better. I'll see y'all next week.
Peace.